Yeah, I can do it.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. So we, as the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, want to begin this meeting by affirming BPAC's commitment to equity and racial justice. We would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on lands that have served as the home for diverse and indigenous communities long before current governments were established here. We pay our respect to the elders and members of these communities, both past and present, and recognize the harms of genocide and colonialism. We will make a conscious effort to reflect on the following questions as we advance through our business and contemplate changes in our community. And we recognize that achieving equity requires our commitment to an ongoing process. How can we seek to repair harm with our work and not erase history? How does our work impact the vulnerability and safety of people who hold so many intersecting marginalized identities, including Black, Indigenous, and people of color, people with disabilities, and lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning people? How can we prioritize and center people in our decision-making? How can we be more responsive to local needs? How can our work build community power and share decision-making? And that's it. Sorry, thought I had one more.
No. Thank you, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, thanks for taking notes as well.
Absolutely.
So let's just reiterate the absences for the record, Hannah, that you have. I know we have a few, if you don't mind.
So excused absences are Kai, Dan, Scott, and Heidi. And then the two people that are hopefully still going to make it are Cherish and Landon.
Great. We don't have any, we were hoping maybe to have one new member today, but we don't. I think we'll save more sort of round robin introductions for then. Then we have Ms. Emily McIntosh here, and I'll give her a chance to introduce herself when we get to her presentation. And just an update again, Hannah, just for the record on the openings, if you don't mind.
Yes, so the one position that was the city at large is closed, and hopefully we'll have them voted on soon. We have the Duke representative county position that is now vacant. And then we still have a vacancy for the city youth representative. And that position would qualify for a stipend.
Thank you. And yeah, just to note, we sort of mentioned it before the official start, Tyler Dewey is moving to the West Coast. So unfortunately, he's no longer on the commission, but we wish him and his family happy times over there. And hopefully he'll swing into a meeting sometime in the future. We'll be sad to see him go, but excited for his next phase. So any adjustments to the agenda from anybody? Just a moment for that. Not hearing anything. Seeing
only
anything.
that we need to approve the minutes from March, not February.
Good catch. Sorry, we're gonna have to start the meeting over then. New agenda. Okay, that's a good point. So that's the next item, the March meeting minutes. We already approved the February ones, but so we'll amend the agenda to say March meeting minutes to be approved. Hopefully you all had a chance to look at the email. Yeah, I looked through it. Things look okay to me. Any adjustments to the meeting minutes from last month? If not, we can get a motion to approve.
Move that we approve the meeting minutes from March.
A second.
Thank you. And all in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, not seeing anything. So the meeting minutes are approved for March. And we'll take a moment. Let me go out of share so I can see if there's anything happening in the chat or in the Q&A. Nothing that I can see, but moment for public comments right now. I know we have a number of attendees. Thank you all for being here. I know some of your names from committee meetings or from prior meetings, so I appreciate it. If you have any public comments you'd like to make or just want to introduce yourself, you're more than welcome to. using the Q&A function, which is kind of our way to communicate across the attendees and the panelists right now. So I'll give a moment for that. Not seeing any comments right now, and we'll have opportunities to sort of, as questions come up or if any thoughts do come to mind, please feel free to write something in and we'll address it throughout the meeting. We definitely invite those guests to participate as much as they'd like. And I think that we're good to go. Yeah, so Emily McIntosh is here to talk about the Year of the Trail. I'll leave it to her. Thanks for joining us, Emily.
All right, thank you so much for having me. Let me pull up my presentation. Make sure everything looks right. Oh, with that. All right, do you all see it in present
Yes.
view? Perfect. All right, so my name's Emily McIntosh. I am with the Durham Parks and Recreation Department. And if you haven't heard, 2023 is the North Carolina Year of the Trail. So as the Year of the Trail, Durham Parks and Recreation does manage over 30 miles of greenway trails and many, many more miles of unpaved trails within our park system. And so Durham Parks and Recreation is encouraging residents to get outdoors for Year of the Trail in North Carolina. It's the largest celebration of trails and outdoor recreation in North Carolina history. And so we're just really excited about what this Year of the Trail has in store for everyone in Durham and throughout the state. So one of the things Durham Parks and Recreation is doing to encourage residents to get out and explore different trails is a monthly trail-focused activity. So trail users can find each month's trail spotlight on the Durham Parks and Recreation website. For example, April's spotlight is the Twin Lakes Trail. And then there's an activity that you can do while you're utilizing the trail. And then you can tag at DPR Playmore on social media. And each month, Durham Parks and Recreation is giving away a prize pack to one winner who tags them via social media that they have completed that month's trail activity. Right now, primarily the trail activities are focusing on some of our lesser known trails at our park. So they're more natural trail focused. So additional trail activities that we have are on our website. We do have a Year of the Trail website that has a calendar. And we have lots of different kinds of activities that use lots of different types of trails. So we have a Men on the Move walk that occurs monthly, and that typically takes place at paved trails in our parks, and it's to encourage older men to get out, enjoy the fresh air, and have a really nice social time with each other. For families, we have trail-themed fun caravans. So these are events that really feature lots of activities for children as young as 2, up to 12, and their parents and caregivers. And we're doing trail-themed activities at our fun caravan events. And so the children might go on a hike along a trail or do a scavenger hunt along a trail during the fun caravan activities. We also do a lot of history hikes at our 2 heritage parks. So that's Lee Farm Park and West Point on the Eno. And so you can have a nice day out and hike, but also learn about how people who lived on those lands might have interacted with the natural area or with recreation. So we also have a big kind of signature year of the trail event. And that is to highlight one of our feature greenway systems, the American Tobacco Trail. So on June 10th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Durham Parks and Recreation, along with Wake County and the town of Cary, are all hosting the American Tobacco Trail Great Trail Day. And we are programming the entire length of the American Tobacco Trail. So in Durham, because we have the most urban section of the trail, we're going to be focusing on all kinds of users. So we will have bike events with Bike Durham, and the bike co-op will be offering some bike maintenance classes. We will be having 2 runs, a 1-mile fun run and a point-to-point run that will be hosted by Bull City Running. We'll have the Oak City One Wheel organization who will be at one of our parks, So Lake Park, along the trail, that will be doing demonstrations of one-wheel devices, and we'll be doing beginner classes on how to use a one wheel in the park, not along the trail. And we'll also be doing some pet safety and etiquette along the trail as well. So a nice fun time to bring your animals out and actually, learn, what's the appropriate method, making sure you always know that you need to have your dogs on leash whenever they are on any of our trails or greenways. So it's going to be a really great day, something to do for everybody along the trail. And then something that's really important to us is that since we do have these great greenways, is we have been doing trail repairs throughout the year on our greenway system. And we are going to City Council with we have a CIP request for additional funds to continue our trail repairs so that we can continue repairing the American Tobacco Trail and the New Hope Greenway. All right, does anyone have any questions? You can find out all our events, and then tons more events are on the Great Trails NC website. And so lots of different groups in the Triangle area have gone on and put their events on that website, as well as all of Durham Parks and Recreation's events are hosted there too.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah, that's interesting. Is the Great Rails NCs, that's where the events are, you're saying that? We can...
Yeah, Great Trails NC has
Great Trails,
all localities across North Carolina, plus different organizations that host activities on trails have been posting their events on the Great Trails NC website.
Let's take a look. I also am just registering, yeah, that it's a statewide sort of event, which is cool.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I had a quick question, if I may. Cecil,
Sure.
just curious if the materials on the year of the trail were also available in Spanish for, I don't know if we wanted to disseminate the information to Spanish speakers.
So if you go to Durham Parks and Recreation website, the entire site is available in Spanish. So anything that Durham Parks and Recreation does, we do translate. And so you can change the language on our website and within our registration system if someone wanted to register. So we do ensure that everything is available in Spanish. The greattrailsnc.com site, I do not believe has been translated into Spanish. I can give them that feedback.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. And if there are any materials that could be provided to community members, I think it'll be helpful as well, right? To advertise some of this awesome stuff you are doing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yes, we try to get everything that like flyers, translated over into Spanish. Right now we're working on the American Tobacco Trail Great Trail Day marketing materials. And so we will be having those available in English and Spanish. And you can always reach out to Durham Parks and Recreation. The website is dprplaymore.org, and we do have a contact us form on there. If you wanted to get flyers sent to you or emailed, we're more than happy to share information like that.
This is Ed. I'm kind of seeing an opportunity here on what was the date of the Tobacco Trail Focus Day?
It is June 10th.
That's a Saturday, I gather?
It is a Saturday from 10 to 2.
Okay, well, you mentioned somewhere along there's going to be some sort of focus on pet etiquette and
Yes.
Walking with pets on the trail. I think incorporating in there somehow service animal etiquette could also sort of be a good fit. Hold on a second. They're just talking now. So I have a seeing eye dog, and it's not frequent, but walking on trails or sidewalks and stuff, there are engagements that shouldn't happen and engagements that should happen and stuff. And as long as you're going to be talking to people about pet etiquette on trails, seems like a great opportunity to also talk about protocols and do's and don'ts with regard to encountering people walking with service animals and so on and so forth. And I'd love to follow up with you on that. I don't know that I'm available that day. I have a German Shepherd seeing eye dog named Gifford, who is a great ambassador. But I'm sure someone in the community, if not me, would love to take advantage of that opportunity if the opportunity is presented.
Absolutely. I just am sending a note to our canine recreation unit, who is providing the pet portion of the event. And absolutely, we would love to incorporate that, because we do recognize that we want all users to feel safe and comfortable using the trail. And, that includes any user who uses a service animal or, uses a cane to walk. We want to make sure that the trails are available to everyone.
Yeah, awesome. So I'll get in touch with you somehow outside of this meeting, and we'll follow up on that. We'll make that happen.
Absolutely,
Thanks.
yes. And Hannah, you can I can post my email in the chat. Do that.
Okay, that sounds perfect.
I was sorry, just to get a little bit more information on the June 10th event. You're saying what was the location, or where on the trail was that going to be again?
The entire length of the trail.
Okay, great.
So,
Great.
We will have different stations set up along the link. So we'll have some activities going on at mile marker 0. We'll have activities at mile 4.25, 6.75, and in Durham 10.25 is as far down as our activities go. But then once you cross over into Chatham County, that's where the town of Cary will pick up, and they'll be offering activities.
Great. One other thing that comes to mind, the service animal suggestion is a great one. Ed, I appreciate you bringing that up. We've had some discussions about on BPAC about e-bikes and making sure that, and it's not just e-bikes, but just generally bike speed near pedestrians. Tobacco Trail is kind of the, I guess, centerpiece of that kind of discussion. So maybe that's something that I just want to sort of represent that thought at least to you all and see if maybe there's an opportunity to make sure that education about how to bike alongside pedestrians, how to share the space safely. I know that we sort of want to make sure that we think about that and include that in any educational efforts, because we've seen close calls where bikers, whether e-bike or just, you know, anyone going too quickly, maybe it's a dog or maybe it's a person or a child, might sort of be running around. And if there's some sort of, if safety is the concern, that might be something to keep in mind and discuss as well.
So that's actually one of the giveaways that we're going to be having, is going to be speed limit stickers. Because one of the things that we recognize on the American Tobacco Trail is there is not a single speed limit sign, and there is a speed limit on the American Tobacco Trail that most people don't know. It is actually 10 miles an hour. Which, you know, oftentimes things are kind of focused on e-bikes because they have the ability to go, you know, about 20, 25 miles an hour without much effort. But all cyclists have the ability, or most cyclists have the ability to go over 10 miles an hour, and not without even realizing it. I myself have to curtail myself on the American Tobacco Trail. But that is something, you know, many people in the department are not just workers, you know, we're trail users as well. And so we experience the joys of, you know, using the trail as a runner or as a cyclist, and with families and with small children and pets. And so one of the things that we were looking at was 10-mile-an-hour stickers that we could give people, encourage them to put them on their bikes, put them on their helmets, water bottles, something so that we really can get that information out there. And I see someone posted in the chat, any comments on e-bike usage on the American Tobacco Trail, specifically regarding speed limits. So the city is pro e-bike. We recognize that enables many people who felt like cycling was out of reach. It puts it back in reach for them. Several of the people who work in the department actually participated in the city's e-bike pilot program in the fall, myself included. It was a lot of fun. So we are not anti-e-bike. We do want everybody, no matter what their mode of transportation is, to follow the speed limit. So for bikes, it is 10 miles an hour. So, you know, if you need an e-bike to help you, you know, give you that pedal assist, then absolutely. But we do want people to follow those speed limits.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
Suzanne, you had a hand up?
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing this. I know we had some promotional materials, I guess I'm not sure exactly from who, for the Year of the Trail at a Eat Smart Move More North Carolina event, and they were a big hit. And I was wondering if there's any chance y'all have any of that, and you may already have a table y'all are planning on having at the upcoming Earth Day event, but if not, we could help put those out as part of the Bike Durham BPAC table.
Yeah.
And be happy to put those up.
So as you may know, Durham Parks and Recreation is the host of Earth Day. And we will have information on the Right Trails Day and all of the 2023 North Carolina Year of the Trail information that we have. I know we've got some really cool stickers. I think we have some pencils that just came in that we'll have out there. But yes, we will have promotional items out at Earth Day as well.
Okay, all right, awesome. My other question, I was curious, because I know this is coming from kind of a state platform where local people, local communities add on to it. Is there any connections between all of these local communities, or is it really just kind of do your own thing?
Coming from the state, it's a lot of do your own thing. That is one of the reasons I wanted to coordinate with Cary and Wake County was that we have this really great trail that runs through all of us. And so that's where the idea of this trail day came up, was with the 3 different municipalities sitting down and talking about, okay, what can we do together that will promote trail usage throughout our community. And we've kind of we shared, okay, these are the other kinds of things that we're doing. But there's not at the state level a coordinated programming push besides saying, think about how we use trails, think about how you can use this larger platform to promote the use of your trails.
That's helpful. Thank you. I appreciate it.
This is Ed again. Just a quick follow-up. I think I heard you say that there's a 10 mile an hour speed limit, but there are no signs posted along the trail indicating that. And
that is correct. Yes.
If that's the case, why not? Well, can't they be put up?
I cannot speak to that. Unfortunately, that's not a decision that rests within my unit. We do post it. You will find it on the Durham Parks and Recreation website. You will find the speed limit listed if you go into our trail use or our trail section. To my knowledge, that's the only place that it is listed. We have talked about adding signs, and that is an ongoing discussion.
Is there, as far as you know, pushback against putting those signs up? It would seem to be like, yeah, let's do that. But
there are differing opinions on the effectiveness of signs.
Yeah. Okay.
That's fair.
All right.
So it's something we're continuing to work on.
Okay. Thanks.
Paul Harvin from the guest list also just had that question. No, so there aren't any plans right now to add signs to the
There
trail.
are not any plans right now to add any additional signs to the American Tobacco Trail.
What about signs just in general about considering speed though? And for folks who have limited mobility, elderly folks, whatnot, like making sure people are considerate of who they speed around.
Yeah, we do have a limited number of signs posted on the trail that show, pass on the left, call out before passing. So there are some passing etiquette signs that are along the trail. And that is something that, we always are trying to get more signs added. It is a competition for resources.
Okay.
Well stated.
Yeah.
I wanted to also ask about, will you be at the Bike Month kickoff with your materials? Because I know that the Bike Durham is doing May 5th. Yeah. Or was it May 6th? Anyway, it's that Saturday.
I will ask, I will reach out to our community and culture section, there are marketing, to see if they got an invite to that.
If not, if you're not going to be there, I just wanted to say, I think we'll have a table. So if you have materials, we'd be happy to kind of pass those along or include them as well.
Okay, yeah, we would love to. We want to make sure that everybody, hears about the Year of the Trail and about the programs that we've got running in coordination with it.
Great. Just FYI, I meant to mention, but Jeff also put in here on the Q&A, Jeffrey Bakelchuk, I hope I'm pronouncing that okay, but I'm a former BPAC commissioner and currently a county at-large member of DOST. So we have a member from one of the other commissions here. Thanks for being here, Jeff. Any other questions for Emily? Well, thank you so much, Emily. I appreciate you giving us the rundown. It sounds like a lot of good stuff, and definitely let us know if we can be helpful. I know, we have our own email lists, small email lists. We can pass information along as well, but look forward to seeing you at these upcoming events for sure.
All right, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out via my email. If I don't know the answer, I will pass it along to one of my coworkers who probably will. And I look forward to seeing you out. I'll be out this Sunday at Earth Day, so I'll be at the Family Fun Zone. If you want to come by, say hi.
Great. Thank you,
All right.
Emily. And
All right.
you feel free to stay on, but you're also welcome to hop off. No, it's
All right.
late
Thank
night.
you for
Thanks.
having me.
Thank you. I should also mention to the larger group, I know that in the chat, or that the non-panelists, the attendees can't see the chat. So if you have, we shared a couple links to Great Rails NC and Emily's email. So if anyone wants that who's not seeing the chat, just open a Q&A and we'll drop that info as the answer so you can see that as well.
I believe people should be able to see it because I shared it as to everyone, not just hosts and panelists.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I
Great.
tried to share the stuff that was in the Q&A there as well, so everyone could see.
Oh, thanks.
But
Okay,
if-
I see. So you can share to everyone. I think we cannot. Only the host can share to everyone. That's what this is.
Okay.
Cool. Because I can't see host and panel. I only see host and panelists as my option in the chat, not everyone.
Okay. Yeah, you have to like do a drag down. Okay.
Okay. All right. Good. Sorry. Thanks. So, well, in any case, if there anything that's being missed from the attendee side, just open a Q&A. All right. Wow. I'm not going to jinx it, guys, but we're ahead of schedule. I might have just jinxed it up. Okay, so committee reports. Yeah, Suzanne, let's jump in quickly.
All right, cool. So we had our first joint meeting this month in April, and it was a small gathering. It was pretty much just me and Dennis. But we knocked out some things and then joined Pi and DevRev together and did a little bit of learning and sharing. So the main things that came out of Triple E are for May, we are going to stick with our regular meeting time for May 9th. And then go back to try our joint meeting, I believe, with DevRev and Pi again in June. We talked about doing that. So for our May meeting, the folks with Healthy Mile Trail and Bike Walk NC are going to be joining us for Triple E to share a little bit more about some opportunities related to that. So if anybody wants to join, feel free. We'll send out a reminder over the listserv. The other thing was related to just these upcoming events. So hopefully a few of us will be able to join for Sunday for Earth Day event and then the kickoff events for Bike Month. I did reach out to John again as well for the money aspect. I don't know if he's followed up with anybody regarding that, if funds are easier just to hand to him directly or if he wants us to go pick up some supplies, but I see heads nodding. So I sent an email today, so hopefully we'll get a response and he can let us know what's going to be easiest for them. My guess is they'd probably rather just have the money and they can go get what they think will work, but happy to help go get supplies if that's helpful. And then the other thing, the big thing is obviously, so Dennis and I met out with Aspen, who I think is still here. Yes, welcome Aspen. And we also, that was kind of a follow-up for the walk audit that folks completed as part of the retreat in February. And then we went out and met with Aspen and a neighbor around the same area for Roxborough and the Banner area, Banner Road, and looked at some different possibilities for connections. And I had hoped to have a draft report for you all tonight, but work's been a bit crazy, so I don't, but it should be pretty easy to pull together. We're wanting to keep it pretty succinct as a one-pager about things that we noticed, some key things that are positive, some major challenges with those areas, things that should be noted. Many of you noted those in the walk audit, so it's really easy to put those in there. Several of you included some pictures and images, and Dennis put in some video as well. So I'll add that along with what we noted with our walk with Aspen along some different roads as well. So can add to that. And then I'll share that with Brian, several of you who are part of the walk audit, as well as Aspen and I'm blanking on the neighbor who joined, but the other neighbor, and just make sure there's nothing else we want to add to that. But it'll be pretty succinct and short. So I just got to find the time to pull it together because we want to keep it to the point, bullet points, some pictures, and then folks can help us figure out what makes the most sense in terms of who to communicate that with and how to share it to hopefully get some action going. But happy to take any questions or see what folks want to add to that.
Yeah, I know we wanted to check in with Javier about that. I don't think she's here, right? So maybe we'll meet next month to see who the best recipients are for that report, because I think it'll be. I appreciate you pulling it together, Suzanne, and Aspen. Thank you for hosting us and showing us around your sort of your different ideas there in the neighborhood. Some interesting stuff that we'd like to incorporate as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks. And I think that's it for Triple E. Oh, the only other thing was obviously following up about items that maybe we can have at the tables. So I don't know, Hannah, if you have Dell shared with you, like the banner we have for the tables, things we could put up, some handouts, the pamphlets on what BPAC is. I don't know if that's stuff we could pick up to take on Sunday.
Yeah, I saw that email today, and I'm still going to do some digging. I'm probably going to reach out to him because there's a lot of folders on the K drive. So, but I know that there is the banner, and I think that there's a table as well. So I'll get more of that information and I'll email you
Okay.
for that.
Okay, that sounds good. And if we don't have a whole lot, that's okay. Maybe we can just even, like, I can develop a very simple flyer to have on the table about what BPAC is or something if there's not any materials. I guess another question is for some of the upcoming Bike Month events too, since Bike Durham didn't ask for a lot of money, are there promotional materials that we could buy? Like, I'm just putting this out. It doesn't have to be this, but like those cute little bike and walk pins everybody used to buy, the little, brightly colored pins that people wore, or something that people with bells for the bikes, whatever, some sort of resources like that we could have just to attract people to the table a little bit.
Yeah, Dennis and I actually in the email chain, we thought that maybe a bumper sticker or something like that might be good. But I think we definitely should have more of a conversation about this, because if you want it branded, that will take longer. And it's probably more expensive, but yeah, I mean, swag brings people to the table 100%. People love free things. That's how conversations start, even if it's free food. So anything free.
Some
Okay.
donuts at least, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, great. And if others have ideas for things that we could buy, certainly feel free to add ideas.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Just having some materials. It could be the bumper sticker is nice because it has like a sort of visibility aspect to it, and can make folks feel a little less bad for driving their car. They have some BPAC promotion on it, at least some upside. But yeah, maybe bike bell, bike light, things like that. Yeah, if there are any ideas, that Mike we have one.
So when Dale would show up each time for setting up the bike livery, he had a couple of boxes full of stuff he would bring. A lot of it was materials, some of it was some tape to put around the bike livery, some that bright orange tape or whatever color he had. So he may have stashed that someplace, or you may be able to get that from him, but it seemed like the same stuff that he picked up and brought each time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the banner was too, I believe.
Okay, that's good to hear. I'll message him then after this meeting.
Thanks.
I know that the actual bike valet equipment was stored last time in the Bike Durham storage unit that they have. So that logistically, I don't think we have to worry about at all setting up, or at least bringing there. I think Bike Durham's doing that.
Yeah, John brought that last time.
Okay.
Y'all notice how I was trying to get the Great Trail stuff so we could at least look cool with that stuff.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to display your stuff if you'd like us.
Yeah. Have a full table, right? You don't want to look empty. Yeah. Thanks, Suzanne. Dan is not here today, but Michael Mormon maybe with the.
Yes, I'm going to do both of them. And I really think that the first thing that I was going to put on the list here is that a group of us met with Lisa Miller concerning the comprehensive plan and our comments on the list of supposedly active items. And she suggested that, in fact, we really need to look to the general plan with the D items. And Dennis has kind of taken that on as at least query for that. So Dennis, if you want to cover, where we are.
Yeah, sure. This is also a new business, but I think we can just jump into it now. Let me, I should have had the link ready. Let me pull it up. Yeah, so mainly there's the policies and the actions are two different lists in each of these categories. And yeah, as Mike was saying, that these sort of actions, though I assume that the actions were more the sort of things you hold people accountable to rather than the policies. It sounds like the policies are more where the accountability is going to be focused. So let me share my screen. I didn't get a chance to send this. I've only added these pretty much earlier today, so I didn't get a chance to send it earlier, but it's pretty light. Maybe we can vote on it, I think, anyways, hopefully, but that's sort of the increase the size of this. That's my hope anyways. Even though it's just a response. Okay, sorry. This, there we go. So pretty much of the policies, I kind of went through a few sections. There are actually a lot of D-labeled policies. So D-labeling in the comp plan means, at least to my understanding, or to their definition, actually, it's policies that are more relevant for new developments. And so these are policies that I think are going to be used to do UDO updates in the future. And also will be looked at more closely when a new development is being made or is being proposed. These D-labeled policies will be checked specifically to see if there's anything the development can be doing to better support the comprehensive plan. So I won't read through these, I think. Actually, I'll leave it open. I'm happy to read through them, but pretty much I had 7 policies that are currently not labeled D. I think it was 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. 6 of them are from the transportation section, and 1 is from the neighborhood section. And I think that these were at least tangentially related to developments, new development projects. So I don't think it hurts to label these D. So I kind of erred on the side of, if there's a chance, let's ask them to make it development relevant. I'll browse through this. That's the main bulk of this response to Lisa Miller, because after her sort of point that the policies are more important, that you should take a look at the D-labeled policies, that was what we wanted to focus on. She also, she and her team made updates to the actions that we made comments on that we looked at last month. We did pretty much all the updates followed from our conversation with her and from the text we gave. So I think we didn't have much to add there, except for one point we wanted clarification on. There was a line, I can pull that up too, actually. I'll leave it for a second. In a second here, let's open it up to discussion. But there was a line about prioritizing equitable impact when it comes to how we manage payment in lieu for sidewalks. We weren't sure what that meant in practice for how you would how you would sort of accept payment in lieu or think of when, how you decide if payment in lieu is acceptable or not, and how that sort of relates to equitable impact. There's just some wording there that we weren't sure about, so we wanted to see clarification on that. And a couple new policy, kind of after our discussion, we were looking through, and we saw some, but not full coverage of these ideas, and wanted to bring these up to Lisa Miller as potential new policies to be considered or to be incorporated into existing policies. I'll read these 2 points. One is that street resurfacing should be used to build pedestrian and cycling infrastructure and implement traffic calming. And 2 is better collaboration and engagement between contractors and communities to implement timely improvements. And both of these essentially speak to policies that sort of push us to do better at what we've missed in the past, like Irwin Road, or when we have a big list of resurfacings, sort of getting better, sort of more lead time to implement design improvements in those resurfacings, and then have the contractors be able to sort of engage, like not just have the contractors resurface without any engagement with the communities. So pause there. Kind of just ran through that, but anything you all like me to read through or go into more detail on, I'd be happy to.
I wonder if it would be good to say after resurfacing or repaving, so that might address when they tear up the sewer lines and, move all that around, they actually have to repave the street. It isn't just a surface treatment.
Would this be, you think, like a new policy option?
No, I think it would just be 2 words added on the one you have, just resurfacings or repavings.
Okay, so you're saying that those are different things. Yeah, that makes sense. I never sort of knew if there was a difference there, but that's good to know. Hey, Cesar, go ahead.
It's more of a question about resurfacing and repaving. Are there certain restrictions on the funding, typically meaning if feasible, if the funding allows us to build additional infrastructure for pedestrian or cycling, then it should be, I think. But I wonder if there's parameters that limit that ability to do that. I was just curious. So as a policy, I wonder if we wanted to caveat by saying if feasible with the funds provided, whatever, for that project. So it was more of a question. Yeah.
That's a good
In the
point. I don't
past-
know. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
In the past, when we've run up against that, which is virtually every time, the limits are set by the width of the street, for instance. When they resurface, they're not moving curbs, gutter, drainage, there's a whole long list. And I think that's just part of the negotiation in terms of you get what you can get out of essentially the physical structure of the street, which means you're basically only adding paint to it.
And I think
I'm sorry.
that yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna ask, so, and this may be what you were just describing, so I apologize, but so what, just for my own education, what's the difference between resurfacing and repaving?
We should get Brian up to talk about it, but anyway, for instance, we just had a year ago or maybe 2, a whole section of Durham got new water mains, and which means they tore the whole street up, or better part of it. And when they got done, they had to repave the street, meaning they put down a substrate, they put down, everything required underneath the street to make it stable. Resurfacing, they are just spraying one of 2 or 3 different strategies of stuff on the top that essentially just seals and preserves the life of the pavement that's already there.
Okay.
But when they do that, they have to repaint the crosswalks and everything else, bike lanes potentially, if they're there.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Nathan had a question, and I'll get to that in just a second. But to Cesar's question, point 2, I don't mind the idea of changing the wording to say prioritize building pedestrian and cycling infrastructure, which just leaves room for that sort of funding, yeah, not sure if the money, when the money exists, I don't know how the money works there. So that's, we tend to dictate even though we don't know, or I sort of tend to lean towards dictating even from ignorance. But maybe this is more to the sort of more honest. And if there are any issues with that, just feel free to bring them up. Nathan's question is microsurfacing covered under resurfacings? Which another term I didn't know. So does anyone know if microsurfacings are sort of considered? I mean, in this policy, I don't mind adding the word microsurfacings here, but I don't know if microsurfacing is a different procedure usually.
I think when we get the list, it refers, there's resurfacing and then different streets are identified with the different kinds of treatments. I think the microsurfacing is one of the ones on the list.
Yeah, and I don't mind, maybe it's too much, but
I
that's
allowed
figured-
Brian. Oh, I was just gonna say, I allowed Brian and Robin to talk. I don't know if they might be able to give more input on that.
So street repair and repaving, I'm just going by using Public Works terminology. Repair and repaving is sort of like the resurfacing one. And then pavement preservation is another one. And that, I think sometimes that's where they just do the micro or some other cape and seal stuff. And then separate from that is like water line projects. I don't know another way to put it, but it's where they are tearing up the street to put in some type of utility. Sometimes though, they don't tear up the whole street, or they just tear up a piece, and there's not an opportunity apparently to restripe an entire street. So that's been a question we've had in some cases. So I don't know. Like I would just say repaving and pavement preservation. And that's probably broad enough to encapsulate the public works projects, any water line projects, and any NCDOT related projects. And microservicing will be is also in that grouping.
What was the second word you said? I'm sorry, I just forgot it. Repaving and.
So the way that Public Works categorizes it, they have two separate annual programs now. One is street repair and repaving, which is the traditional one, and then there's just pavement preservation, where you see the Cape Seal, or you might see the microsurfacing on some streets. The bigger opportunity is usually the street repair and repaving.
So street repaving and preservation, you think probably covers is the biggest umbrella there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the terminology that covers everything and uses the terminology that our own Public Works department is using. And I think it's also encompassing the water line type projects.
Right. Okay. That's good. And this will be to Lisa Miller, who I think will know our intention. She can kind of tweak it as well, or suggest tweaks. Jeff had a question. Did I interrupt somebody else who had a question talking? No. Jeff was asking, do you want to add something along the lines of notifying BPAC and maybe DOS prior to final design of any repaving projects that would allow feedback when it could actually be implemented? Yeah, that's a good point. That might be, I might actually, maybe I'll add that as a note here. Because I think this will be, that probably would, I'm not sure if that would live in a policy, right, at this comp plan level, but maybe we can mention this to Lisa as just like, is there a way, or where would you recommend putting some language to notify? Maybe it does live at the comp plan. Maybe it's sort of expansion of these communities line. Contractors, communities, and relevant commission, city, like what are we called, a commission, city commission, or like a city county commission? Nathan says BPAC should try to be notified by Public Works when they submit their recommended streets to preserve and repave to transportation each August. Okay. Interesting. That happens each August. Okay, so I'm gonna add a note here. Street. Does anyone have any thoughts about adding commissions or any better way to mention sort of some sort of callback to, or some sort of accountability to the commissions? Again, these won't be final wordings. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'll just make this note here, and just so I remember to bring it up to Lisa. What's the best way BPAC and GOST can be notified?
Dennis, this is at a, remember back when we were talking about the Irwin Road thing?
Mhm.
Someone had written a letter, I don't recall exactly who, but someone in this group, I believe, wrote a letter and made the point that the timing of notification of resurfacing is really critical, so that like BPAC and DOST or whoever is it's appropriate to notify about these things, to seek feedback, that ought to be done at a very early stage. Rather than to the point, I think it came up with the Irwin Road one, by the time transportation got around to kind of seeking public feedback, it was pretty much a done deal, and public feedback wasn't really going to have much of an impact. So somewhere along the line following that, I submitted a policy suggestion to Lisa and her crew that and I don't have the language at my fingertips, but along those lines, it's put it out for public comment by commissions, boards, and committees at a very early stage, so that if there is feedback, and there inevitably will be, it's more likely to be taken to heart and actually have an impact than if it's done after all of the planning is, the designs are done.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I know that was actually, we discussed this, and it was part of the action item suggestions. So I think it's in there kind of as an action, but now that we're more focused on the policies, and I think, yeah, maybe this wording, there's probably some wording that's between this one and the one you had, maybe in your suggestion. I'm going to read this last version out for you all. So more timely collaboration and engagement between the city, contractors, communities, and relevant commissions to implement infrastructure improvements.
I think timely should really be, more focused on early stage, and and also put some emphasis on the reason why, and so that the feedback will be meaningful. Just my thought on that.
Yeah, how about should be conducted as early as possible? So collaboration and engagement between the city, contractors, communities, and relevant commissions should be conducted as early as possible to implement infrastructure improvements. That's the current wording.
At a very early stage in the planning or the design.
As early as possible in the design stage.
Yeah. I would take out as early as possible and say make it more definitive, at a very early stage in the design and planning phase, because if we leave it up to as early as possible,
right,
it's kind of arbitrary.
At the beginning.
Yeah, at the beginning, before you pick up a pen.
At the beginning of the design stage, I'll say maybe there's an earlier stage. Somebody can sort of chime in if there's.
I would say as soon as it's scheduled, because by the time it hits design, it's already pretty much decided what the plan is going to be, and basically the momentum's against you in terms of making changes.
Yeah, that's good.
So as soon as it's scheduled, as the project is scheduled. So collaboration. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I can provide a little bit of information here, not necessarily the wording, but so what we need from Public Works, what the Transportation Department needs from Public Works in order to take a programmatic annual approach to this, consider resurfacings and where there's opportunities for pavement marking changes. We need a multi-year map. NCDOT has one, it's just not accurate. It's like the map doesn't actually reflect their annual street list, and that's a problem. Public Works just needs to create one too, and that's something that Clint said that his group was going to do. So if we have a map showing the resurfacing for the next 3 years, then we can plan ahead and make sure we get things in line. And it's not just the public involvement, it's the making sure that we can hire a consultant to do the pavement marking plans and the signals, and like have that back and forth and meet with DOT and do public involvement. So it's kind of everything together in the multi-year map thing. That may be too specific, because I mean, these policies are going to come right back to us. That's kind of the thing we need from Public Works and also from NCDOT in order to start moving a year in advance to acquire a consultant, unless we decide to hire someone, which would be great. A lot of this stuff used to be done in-house. Someone to do the pavement marking plans and the signals, help out with the public involvement, and put together pavement marking plans prior to the resurfacing taking place. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps you craft this, but that's kind of the background on the challenges.
You
and
think
what
the
we- 'cause we
multi?
have-
Yeah.
So
'Cause, like,
one
for
of the
MLK, we
pieces that
found out
isn't
that-
in there is a reference to NCDOT projects of this sort, basically.
Yeah, so there is
um,
some confusion, right, between which projects we're talking about here. Brian, yeah, you can finish up what you were saying there.
Yeah, I don't know, like, it would be nice if DOT could follow our comp plan guidance, but we are being proactive about trying to get those lists from DOT, and we have had a little bit of progress. I mean, just recently, I think in our last meeting, the prior month, where they just Public Works mentioned that Woodcroft was 2 years out, but maybe they could move it up. So if we knew what that list looked like for year 1, 2, and 3, we'd be like, hey, you've got Woodcroft in year 3. Can we move that to year 1 or 2, or is there other streets that are more in need of the resurfacing?
Mhm. The multi-year project list, I think that's where, and that's specifically for repavings. That would fall under the repaving and preservation discussion, right?
Correct. Yeah. So like if I can look at the DOT map and it's not accurate, but I know that in the next 2 years or 5 years, they're going to repave Main Street. And I know that Main Street has bike lanes that can be a lot wider, and we could probably add vertical protection in them. I'd like to know the specific year, but I don't. So if Public Works said that same thing, I could look at that later, and I could overlay that on top of our bicycle network gap needs, and identify the opportunities instead of like finding out about them like with MLK in December, and they say they're about to repave in the spring, which is what they almost did. So that's like zero time for us to do anything. So if we have multiple years and we can plan ahead, because especially with the DOT roads, we need usually a consultant, because in a lot of cases we have to do the traffic analysis to prove to DOT that some intersection level of service won't go to F in 2045 if we do a road diet. So it's a little bit more money, and we can plan ahead, and we can get the funding in place to do everything we need to do. So I don't know if I helped you at all write this policy, but I just figured it might be helpful to explain what the issues have been that are preventing us from taking a programmatic approach. Because it just felt to me, and like for 1 or 2 years in a row, like it's been a last minute sort of operation.
Mhm. Yeah, that is useful, I think, to just because it's worth us. I mean, if we're gonna propose something to be kind of as precise about what the problem is, if we're trying to solve one as possible. So I reworded the street repaving, and I'll read it again here. Street repaving and preservation should prioritize building pedestrian and cycling infrastructure and implement traffic calming. There should be a reliable multi-year repaving and preservation project list that can be used to plan infrastructure improvements. I think that gets at the multi-year point, but I invite feedback there. And again, this probably won't be the final wording, but this just does this cover all the ideas that we care about with regard to repaving and preservation, and then I'll read the second point.
I think, sorry, I
Please.
think the Public Works Department might push back on prioritize, like making the bike and ped facilities the #1 priority. It should definitely be considered and prioritized wherever possible, but I think either Public Works or Lisa might preemptively wordsmith that particular word and to something else, given that like that's not the primary purpose of it, but obviously we want to be able to use every opportunity we can to add a bicycle facility, but just the word, maybe prioritize isn't the right word in that. Also in that sentence.
Yeah, and I might even leave it and just let her try to, just so we give the strong version and they can kind of whittle it down if that's okay with everyone else. We could soften it now to like include when possible, you know, something like that. But I'm assuming this is our priority.
Yeah.
Okay. I just made it a full list of 3 things. Building, street repaving and preservation should prioritize building pedestrian infrastructure, cycling infrastructure, and implement traffic calming. There should be a reliable multi-year repaving and preservation project list that can be used to plan infrastructure improvements. I might say these in any case. Okay, any other thoughts on this policy option? Then I'll move to the second one, which we also had some external feedback from.
You could say street paving, repaving, and preservation should actively pursue pedestrian and cycling safety improvements. Could be one way to do it, but
sorry, say that again. Yeah.
Yeah, street repaving and preservation should actively pursue pedestrian and cycling safety improvements.
How do people feel about that wording?
I like it.
Pedestrian and cycling safety improvements, is that what it was?
Safety improvement opportunities.
Ah, okay. Improvement opportunities, okay. And implement traffic calming then. I'm still keeping that.
Sure. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Mary Rose, so we had a few comments. I'll just read them out just for legibility. Jeff was just mentioning that it should be as early as possible to allow feedback while design changes are still possible, referring to our sort of giving ourselves ample time for feedback. Nathan mentioned both were saying probably before design, so they know what the design requirements are. I think they schedule after the design is done though. So similar point to Jeff. Mary Rose had a couple points. Can you also ask to provide feedback about streets that could become priorities for a given year? Like if there is a street that needs restriping and or bollards, etc., to include safer bike or ped infrastructure, but it's not on the list because it doesn't meet Public Works' criteria for repaving and resurfacing. Or ask them to include those improvements needs within their current criteria. Yeah, so that's interesting. Projects that essentially don't fall under this repaving and preservation, but might still be opportunities for improvements, is what I hear from that. I think that's right. Yeah, I think maybe there's a way to say, I mean, I don't know if the word street project, which I used here, is a good term, but maybe there's sort of a point to be made here about what projects fall under Public Works is sort of categorization of repaving versus repaving. We're considering to also include resurfacing and preservation. This might be a question for Lisa Miller, and like, can we expand the wording here to include any street projects, not just ones that are selected by Public Works? Mary, let me know if that doesn't get it, what you're saying here. Works as criteria. So I'll include this. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, great. Okay, and then the second, yeah, I'll using up. I think we're okay on time still, but so I'll reread the second policy. I made a couple changes. Collaboration and engagement between the government. Anyway, I think this needs to be changed, but collaboration and engagement between government entities, contractors, communities, and relevant commissions should be conducted as soon as any street project is scheduled in order to allow ample time for feedback and implement infrastructure improvements.
That's good.
Is government entities right? Maybe there's a better term. I can also just let Lisa fix the term there. Any other thoughts to that phrasing?
I think it's good.
Okay. All right, then I'll open wider and say, any other thoughts on all this? And if not, are we, if anybody is sort of willing to make a motion, we could send this as a whole commission. I think that would be, if we're all on board, that would be useful.
This is Ed. I'll make a motion that we adopt as BPAC as a committee, the commission, the 2 additional policy statements as discussed.
Mm-hmm. Ed, is that okay? Also, I didn't read them out, but I have also the set of 7 policies.
Oh yeah,
that we would add to
and the list of action items. No, I've got that on your Google Drive. Thanks for doing that. Yeah, as
Okay.
so let me reword it. I'll move that BPAC adopt the action item revisions, modifications, and the 2 new policy statements for purposes of the long-term comprehensive plan.
Brian,
I'll
I'll
second.
Second that.
I'll pick Brian's second. First I heard. Any all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Not hearing anything, seeing anything. Okay, thank you all. I will send this to Lisa Miller as is with our questions. Nathan also brought up another point, which is sort of higher level, but and could be included as a question. But would it be good to write a policy that Durham Transportation should assume all city streets need better bike, walk, transit infrastructure, and slower speeds? Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. If folks have thoughts on that, I'll open that up. I don't think I'll include that as a policy option here, unless out of this discussion we want to have a sort of addition. But for my sake, I think that is a good. The problem here is that there'll be some pushback that there need to be arterial roads for cars. You know, I think that there should be some, I think that Brian has talked about this and I know others have as well. There should be some give and take of like, we should lower speeds on 90% of streets probably, and push cars to a small subset of all of our roads and right of ways. And there, those speeds should be maintained. So highways, you know, things like that. In principle, so maybe technically there's like a catch there, but in practice, this essentially to me does mean what you're saying, you know, just when in doubt, any street we should be prioritizing bike, walk, transit, and reducing car speeds. Yeah, I can add that as a follow-up, just sort of not a full official BPAC question, but curious what Lisa would say to that. I'm sure because she has to sort of navigate the pushback she gets from other orgs. So maybe if she says, hey, it could be a policy, then I could bring it back and push harder on it. Any other thoughts on that? Thanks, Nathan, for the question.
I mean, I certainly agree with it, but all is always very easy to say no to.
Mm-hmm.
and eliminate further discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Any other points on that? Michael, did we have anything else for BPAC? Yeah, I think maybe we were in the middle of it, right? For Pi Devra, doing that again.
Yeah,
Pi
there are
Devra.
a few other items.
Go ahead.
So the first meeting, by the way, we did meet twice on our usual schedule. The second one being the joint meeting with AAA also. We spent a good part of the first meeting looking at an issue that Dr. Amalpour, who lives in Woodcroft or Woodlake actually, is concerned about that there's a section of Woodcroft Parkway which doesn't have any sort of bike lanes or paths or anything. Some of it doesn't even have a sidewalk. And he's concerned because he wants to take his kids to school on their bikes or do things that anybody else would want to do. And that is pretty much the major east-west connector in that area for bikes and pedestrians. So I think Brian looked at this before the meeting and came with some plans and had suggestions of ways that this could be kind of piece by piece approached over, bettering conditions over the long term and maybe some early conditions that would at least make it usable. So that was the first part. And let's see who is.
By the way, Andrew was in the meeting earlier, I believe. I think he had to.
Was
he
he?
had to step off, but yeah. So he's staying. I will hopefully continue to hear about his sort of efforts for that.
Yeah, that fits
section.
in nicely also with the extension that's going to happen down toward the high school, Jordan High School. So Brian brought a lot of issues up concerning that are going to have to be solved by people in transportation. They aren't something we can really deal with other than just supporting them. Let's see. And Clarice brought a concern having to do with Northern High School, the new Northern High School, which is about a half mile south of the Eno Park. And information we had at the first meeting was a very sketchy look at the site and no idea what the plan was, and kind of a disastrous connection to Roxborough Road. So anyway, Hannah and Kai worked on someone who actually had the plans, and Hannah eventually sent them out to all of us. Any of you want to look, it's a long package, but most of the interesting stuff's on the first couple pages. And the issues really came down to there isn't a good way to get across Roxborough Road, which is 5 lanes on that whole frontage, for anybody that isn't a car. I mean, there's signalized intersections at the 2 main entry points, but there's no crosswalk even. And we decided that's probably because there's no sidewalk on the western side of Roxborough along there. So there are no pedestrian facilities on that side, which probably is a different discussion that needs some attention. So anyway, that's where we left that one. Let's see, is anything else? Oh, and Eric Lanfried sent a message, brought up his concern that it's hard to get to the main library from the west side. Again, Roxborough Street seems to be the road seems to be the problem. But if you're coming from the west side, which is where a lot of people would, probably the safest scheme is to go far away from the library, cross, and then come back to the library. So that was something he brought up that we really haven't looked at any further than this. And I think that's the main stuff.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, just regarding Roxborough, I do wonder, anyway, a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about Roxborough. I think putting that down into one page will be sort of an effort, but we invite everybody to come to the committee meetings next month, and I think it'll take a couple months to get that sort of finalized. And it's worth noting again, just as a reminder, Pi and Devrev will need new chairs soon in a few months, so invite everybody to come to the committee meetings and just see what it's like. And we'll probably start that process a little bit more stringently in the next month. Yeah, Michael.
So if you know anyone who might want the county seat for the aged, my term runs out at the end of June.
All right, we lose more than just chairs. Yeah, we're going to lose 2 members as well, so those will have to be filled. Big shoes to fill too. Thanks, Michael. All right, so for the other committee reports, Javiera is not here. Hannah, did you get any updates from her? I didn't get anything from her.
No, I didn't.
Same with Heidi. I didn't get any updates for Heidi. Hannah, I don't think.
No, me neither.
Okay. But I forgot to mention, Jeff chimed in. First, to Nathan's point, just also agreed that most is a better word than all. For the all city streets need better bike walk infrastructure. And then Jeff also asks, what is the age requirement for the county senior seat? That's a good question. Is there one?
Turns out that there isn't an age requirement. It is someone who is supposed to represent the needs or requirements of older folks.
Okay. So is, in any sense of the word, I guess. Maybe don't apply to both the youth. Maybe that's just the only.
Yeah.
We also have a city youth seat that's open. So that actually does have an age requirement. I think that ended up being what, 26, 25, 24, something like that. Not to put you on the spot. Tell us later. Other committee reports, no. So we lost Tyler Dewey to the West Coast. Nothing from Duke. Hopefully we'll have a new member from there soon. NC Central, we believe we'll have a new member next month, officially sworn in, Jalen Baker. So looking forward to that. I guess I'll check. No updates that we know of relevant to Duke and NC Central, right? Yeah.
No. No, I'm not sure. I'm gonna touch base with Dale to see how he would do recruitment for Duke University.
Yeah, inviting everyone here who knows people at Duke, I guess, to reach out.
Exactly.
And then for the comp plan, Ideal isn't here today, but Ed, maybe, I know we talked about our sort of comments. Anything else on your end about the comp plan that you want to bring up?
I don't have anything to add. It's just nice that they're still welcoming refinement and feedback.
Mhm.
I apologize. I don't know if anything is scheduled for the upcoming weeks.
No problem. Thank you, Ed. And I think, yeah, Lisa is checking in, trying to make sure she gets our feedback, and Hannah relays that, I think, across parties. So I appreciate that, both Hannah and Lisa Miller, making sure that they get everything out of us that we can possibly provide. I think it is towards the end here. Okay, any other community updates from anyone, panelists, attendees? Okay. Oh, Nathan asks, did Duke choose the person, or does any Duke employee qualify? Good question. I don't think Duke has to sign off, right? I think you have to be affiliated with Duke. I don't know if you even have to be officially an employee. Is that right?
I think it's yeah, I think it's just affiliated.
Could be a student, I guess, in theory. Could be actually, I don't know. I shouldn't speak out of turn there, but
Yeah, I can check on that.
I'll move on and just let us chime in. But yeah, Nathan, definitely, I don't think Duke has to sign off. I don't think it goes through them. For old business, right, so we talked about the Earth Day Festival. Anything you wanted to add there? And I'll say, I guess at the top, thank you to those who filled out the form for the volunteer events. I think maybe there are a few left who haven't. Feel free to do so. We've gotten some good participation, but more is always better there. So thank you to those who can make it. And so anything for the bike valet, Suzanne, that you wanted to add? Or we went over that?
Yeah, I think we're good. I mean, it's really just, if you don't have to have any experience, you just show up and park bikes.
Mhm. Don't have to ride them, do we?
No.
Okay, good. I won't be able to make that, but Suzanne will be sort of point of contact for those who can make that. And then I'll be at the Bike Month kickoff on the 6th. And I'll send an email out probably this Sunday, well, this weekend, regarding that. And thanks to those who said they're available, and you'll get an email within a week there. Okay. And presentation topics for upcoming meetings. I'll pull that up and share my screen just real quick. It's the list we all know, but if there are any thoughts, just a chance to speak on here of ideas for topics to have presentations to have come to BPAC. Maybe, Suzanne, who are the people you had coming to Triple E? Maybe you could mention that here again.
Yeah, so it was the Healthy Mile Trails and then Bike Walk and See.
Okay. So maybe it's worth just keeping them in the loop, and if you think it's useful, they could come to the wider BPAC as well.
Yes, yes.
Any other things on people's minds in terms of topics they'd like presentations on, or items from this list that they prefer? Yeah, I don't have anything myself right now. I think we had another couple sort of short list items that we were gonna head towards. Yeah, I think hopefully we'll get some updates as well as the comp plan finishes up. There'll be some sort of time sensitive stuff that I think will come up in the next 3 or 4 months, I imagine, as well. All right. Okay. Let me find my place again. I think we're wrapping up. We did the new business. We did the sort of comp plan follow-up. I appreciate everybody diving into that. I like it when we're able to take the time to hash out things like that. So thanks to everyone. And that's kind of a lot of what we do at the committee meetings. For those who haven't been able to make it before or can't always make it, that's the kind of, whether it's wordsmithing or sort of ideating, it's fun to kind of get our chance to speak our mind there. Any other announcements and updates from anyone that BPAC might find relevant? All right, not seeing anything. Did we get any, did you find anything else about the Duke employee, or if it needs to be an employee or not for the Duke, Hannah? I don't. We can refer them to the website too.
No, I wrote it on a sticky note to find more information about it.
Perfect. Just wanted to make sure.
But no, I have not.
I didn't want to have cut you off from that. Okay, that's fine. Nathan, yeah, we can always feel free to email us. By the way, our email, maybe you can drop the email that folks can reach BPAC at in the chat for everyone.
I'll put it.
And I don't know that they have to be, but I know in the past, a couple of the Duke folks were affiliated somehow with like the Duke planning traffic something. I can't remember exactly what the title was, but that is, I don't think it necessarily has to be, but I think they had been in the past.
There's also some new group that Tyler was telling us about that the students were forming, right?
Right.
This is why we need a Duke liaison. It's a chicken and egg problem. We don't know enough to find one when we don't have one.
So if you still have contact with Tyler, maybe you could ask him that question, because he has the view from the Duke side, meaning Duke may think that they ought to, okay, whoever's representing them.
Good point.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. I think I'll note that here, and I can reach out to Tyler, just ask if he has thoughts about who we should first places for us to look for for a replacement. And that kind of moves us to the communication priorities. I'll reach out to Tyler about that. And the other ones I had were, well, just syncing up about with Emily McIntosh about the materials, whether she has any to give to us, and whether she'll be at the Bike Month kickoff. So maybe if I think Suzanne, Hannah, me, we three of us can just coordinate an email chain with Emily. That works. And that's all I had. Any other communication updates or communication priorities?
This is Ed. I'm going to follow up with Emily about her the trail day thing on the tobacco trail and get some service animal exposure there. I don't know if that's an official BPAC thing, but I certainly plan to follow up with her. And then also just I think at our next EEE meeting, we can maybe toss around the possibility of BPAC sending a letter to Parks and Rec about posting speed limit signs on the trail.
I think that's a great idea. Scott's not here. Scott brought that up a few months back in terms of specifically just concerned about that speed differential between pedestrians and e-bikes. So it's aligned with, I think, a lot of what we've discussed. Yeah, I'd be happy to include that in the future agenda. Okay, I think that's any other communication priorities. Thanks, Ed. That's a good point that you brought those up.
Just bringing the walk once we have kind of the walk audit report summary,
Yeah.
making sure to share about that.
Yep. And then I'll be emailing Lisa Miller a reply using the sort of reply that we just voted on today as well. So that's also on the list. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, I didn't jinx it too bad. 19 minutes back. Thanks, everybody. The timer. Wow, we beat the timer today. 1 and 1. Okay.
Right. We're only in the yellow. The yellow, not the red.
Oh, don't ask for the green. That'll be getting greedy. All right, everyone. Thanks again. Thanks to the attendees. Oh yeah, the email that Hannah dropped in, that's one that outside folks can email without getting bounced, just FYI. So if you have any questions or anything, that goes to me, to the chair, to Hannah, to the vice chair, Ed. And we can direct any questions you have via that email. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Great.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks.